Yo guys, what is going on? Blossoms back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives and another episode of what can you get from that pack. In today's video, we're talking about the Trading Paint Carbon Fiber. Now, I've talked about it in the past. What the hell does Trading Paint even mean? What do these special tags even mean anymore? And there was only one correlation that I could find. A lot of people were asking what it meant, and I think the only way I can, it's a gray area. It's very vague. But, Trading Paint, when you think about Trading Paint, you think about, cars hitting against each other on the racetrack and stuff, which is, I guess you can say, that is an aggressive way of driving, and all of these cars have aggressive names. Took me a while to figure that out, to be honest. Well, that's the thing though, not all of them have aggressive names. Someone pointed that out, but there's still some things that kind of get me off guard. So yeah, Boxster, that makes sense. That's aggressive. But what's a Karoq? I mean, I guess I could go Google what Karoq means. But I feel like you would, or Porsche 911 Turbo S3.8997.2. Is that aggressive? Maybe the turbo part is aggressive to some people. The XC60 T6 Recharge, I wouldn't really count Recharge as a competitive or aggressive name. The M4, okay, competition coupe, maybe because, competition, like Macan. I think someone said that Macan in, Indonesian was meant tiger or something like that. Bro, honestly, they're really pushing the limits of what's aggressive and what isn't, honestly. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. What can you get from the pack? We're going to be ranking every single one. Again, going off my personal experiences and intuition, and I'll be ranking this with very real ranks. So not the jokes like your guys and your daily driver. I mean, obviously those are fun names, but I feel like sometimes people just tend to not understand those ranks, so I'm just gonna make them as obvious as they come. Highly versatile, requires some criteria, requires a special tag challenge for the car to be used, and bro, they made it the only option. And we're gonna begin with the Chevrolet HHR SS Turbocharged. Yeah, it requires some special tag, literally this one, Trading Paint. Now, the thing about Trading Paint, and usually I don't start with super rares, I start with ultra rares, epics, and legends, but this time I'm putting in the super rares because there is something very interesting about this. First of all, let's get rid of the useless ones out of the way. So the Palisade, the Tonga, now that it's off-road tire, I think it was always off-road tires to be honest, but it's still pretty useless because it doesn't handle, and it's also kind of expensive to use compared to all the other off-roaders, like the Dodge Ram Charger, for example, and all those other 45s, and not 40s, but the 40, not 45s, but 40s, like the K5 Blazer and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the Citroen Ollie. Again, I've not seen this car been used anywhere. The Ram Charger only made the only option. The thing is, handling is everything in the off-road meta, and the Ram Charger isn't the best handling off-road tire RQ40 car. And then some of these Volvos, I mean, I'm just gonna put them all in garbage tier. I don't think any of these cars have been really useful. And yeah, one thing to take note though, to take note is that there's a discrepancy in terms of RQ. So when you talk about the super rares, right, you kind of start at 42, 42, 42, 42, 40, 40, 40, right? And it just jumps to 47 with the Charger RT, which kind of scares me, because if I get into the latter rounds of this challenge and you need super rares and the RQ is tight, that means that, you might not be able to use higher RQ cars, and this is kind of what you're left with. And this brings me to my next point. The only performance tire car that is front-wheel drive, or basically not four-wheel drive, the only non-four-wheel drive performance tire car, which basically means that it doesn't have any inflated stats, is the Chevrolet HSR SS Turbocharged. So if you need to use a really strong performance tire car within the low RQ super rare ranks of this challenge or whatever, the Chevrolet HSR might be the only one. So yeah, it requires a special tag challenge, and also outside of that, it's not the worst car in the game. It looks completely hideous, but the MRA on it is pretty decent. Wait for it to get nerfed in the next update, because that always seems to happen. Whenever there's a new update with a revamp of a brand, all the current brands, they get nerfed. Think about APGP and Mitsubishi, right? APGP came along, a bunch of new Mitsubishis came along, all the current Mitsubishis in the game, they got nerfed to hell. And I wouldn't be surprised that when the new Chevrolets come over in American Overdrive, a lot of these older Chevrolets, maybe even Cadillacs or GMCs, they're all gonna get nerfed. I guarantee you. So I don't know how much longer that Chevrolet Itchers is going to stay and requires a special tag challenge. If this thing gets nerfed just by even a little bit, I'm going to move it down a rank. And then with the Ford Reflex, requires some criteria. Honestly, borderline versatile, mainly because there are not a lot of four-wheel drive performance tire RQ40s in the game. So like, it's a good car for clubs, because for clubs, if it's like super low RQ and it's all dry and it's like four-wheel drive times 5, the Ford Reflex is a pretty decent car to have. The thing about inflated ranks or inflated stats is usually if you're just a rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive car, then your on-paper stats are pretty accurate with your RQ. If you're four-wheel drive and medium ground clearance, it's really not accurate at all, because you get more RQ points by just being four-wheel drive and medium. And then like if you're four-wheel drive but low ground clearance, it's still inflated but not as bad as if it was medium. So yeah, anyway, the Reflex, it's good in clubs, so I'm gonna put it requires some criteria. The Dodge Charger RT honestly requires a special tag challenge. Medium ground saloons, dime a dozen for the Supra ranks. Then with the Mitsubishi Lancer Sportback Rally Art, requires some criteria in my opinion. Power Wagon requires a special tag challenge, maybe some criteria. You can get some use out of it, 332 on like a hill climb. But that's about it. I mean, top speed isn't very high. It's really just praised for its low-ish 0 to 60. And then we move on to the ultra rares. So let's get rid of the crap ultra rares out of the way first. So the Palisade, the Karoq, and the other Karoq. So yeah, basically if you're all surface tires, you're already out of the question. The Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, again, like I said, in the brand new update, I wouldn't be surprised if all the Chevrolets get nerfed, including the Corvette ZR1. Right now, it's pretty decent. It's got MRA, handles pretty well. I mean, hell, the Corvette ZR1 used to be an epic like 4 years ago. And it's a 90s American dream car. So it's going to be really useful in American dream events that maybe are restricted to year or restricted to lower RQ, so you can't use any of the epics. The ZR1 is one of the better ultras from that update, and it will always be the case. I don't think we will have, we will always have revamp to brands, but I don't think we will have revamps to updates. Imagine if they made American Dream 2 and they just added more cars that had the American Dream tag. That would be a bit strange, but I can see that actually kind of making sense. But yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen, so I'm going to say require some criteria until it gets nerfed, if it gets nerfed. Moving on to the Dodge Charger RT Scat Pack, I'm going to put that in versatile. Low ground clearance, saloon, and rear wheel drive. So it doesn't have any inflated stats or inflated RQ. It's what I would expect from an RQ61. It's also a 5-seater. It's decent. It's a decent hybrid. Moving on is the Charger SRT8. That requires a special tag. I remember when that had like a ridiculously low 0 to 60. Remember that? And I had one drag spec. I think it was like a 3.6 0 to 60 when you max it out or something like that. Like it used to be really strong. Even though it had no MRA, then it got like a 0 to 60 nerf. No, it got a 0 to 60 time nerf, but then it got an MRA buff, but it wasn't like too big of a buff. Like it used to have like 50 MRA and like an incredible 0 to 60. Now it has a worse 0 to 60 and like meh MRA. Yeah, I barely used the Charger SRT8. I actually used it a lot back in the day of American Dream. I had two. I mean, I still have two, 1233 and 1332, but I don't use those cars anymore. The Ford Mustang GT Power Performance Pack, I feel like is pretty versatile. It's one of the better American ultras in the game. And it also has a great middle ground in terms of low 0 to 60 and decent handling, especially for American-made cars. Same like the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, these two, actually all these three ultra rares at one point were all epics. Can you imagine that? Like there was a point in time where the Charger RT Scat was 67, the Corvette ZR1 was 66, I believe, and the Mustang GT was also around 66. So it's crazy to see that they've all gone down to 61s. Now moving on are the Hyundais. I'm gonna give the Hyundai i30N Performance Versatile and the Fastback requires some criteria just because it's a little worse in most cases. I do get decent use out of the Hyundai i30N, and that is because, you know, there are not a lot of Korean performance tire cars within that meta. Obviously, there's only been one Korean update, so there are a lot less Korean cars than, say, American cars or British cars or Japanese cars who have gotten like 2, 3, 4 updates at this point. So they're kind of only competing in their small little bubble. So if you stand out in that bubble, you kind of just stand out in your entire niche. The Hyundai Veloster Grappler is the next one. You know, handling isn't the best. Front wheel drive off-road tires. I believe it's high ground clearance. It might actually be medium because I don't remember putting that thing on a motocross. I don't use it too often. I'm gonna even say it requires a special tag challenge, and I'm gonna put that for the Mitsubishi Lancer as well. But a little bit more brownie points, I would say, for the Mitsubishi Lancer, just because it has that 70s niche. But a lot of these rear-wheel drive off-road tire cars are from that pre-2000s era, even pre-90s era. So I wouldn't weight that niche too much where I would bump it up a rank. So I'm gonna put both of them in requires a special tag challenge. I think that like they're definitely a lot better than the all-surface tire cars. And like if you needed an off-road tire car in this challenge, they'll be very useful. But outside of the challenge, they're better options to use. So because of that, I think it's really accurate to put it in requires a special tag challenge. And obviously trading paint will be its time to shine. Moving on to the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, that's our first highly versatile car. About 60-ish MRA, four-wheel drive, medium ground clearance, handles really well, and has a low 0 to 60. And a saloon 5-seater, jack of all trades, literally, and master of everything twisty. Now moving on, and city streets. Now moving on is the Porsche Boxers. Now these two, again, I think they require a special tag challenge, but the one that is slightly better in our queue requires some criteria. And that's about it, honestly, pretty pedestrian stuff. Now moving on to the epics, we're gonna start with the Aston Martin Vanquish S. Now this is versatile, it's a good car. It's got a high top speed, MRA is alright, used to be a legendary as well. It's a very strong car, and the handling is phenomenal. Next up is the BMW M4 Competition. I'm actually going to bump it up even more to highly versatile, mainly because the difference between the M4 and the Aston Martin is A, the M4 has 100 MRA, well it's 99, but you know, basically 100, and it has that World Expo Plus niche. That is something that the Aston Martin lacks in, unfortunately. I wish it was as useful as the BMW M4. I feel like you just get a little bit more value if you're known for more of a dragster than a twisty car. You know, for the Aston Martin Vanquish S, if I wanted to really use a British twisty car, then I would use like a Lotus or a Caterham or a Jannetta or a Radical or an Altima. But like for the BMW M4's case, if I want to use a German dragster, the BMW M4 Competition is like top 5, you know, like the Aston Martin Vanquish S would be top 5 within its British twisty niche, but the BMW M5 would probably, honestly, genuinely be top 5 in the German drag niche for epics. I mean, the only epics I can think of that are better in that German category would be the Roof Yellowbird, maybe the Roof SCR. I think it will lose to the AMG CLK DTM. The M4 is a very, very phenomenal car. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a very good one. What other epics am I missing? Roof Yellowbird is like the number one that I would think of when it comes to that niche. Maybe the BMW M5 Jahre edition. That's a really, really good one too. Now moving on is the Chevrolet Corvette C6. Ah, man. Yeah, requires a special tag challenge, honestly. The Z06 is the same story. These two cars is going to be really hard to get any value out of those. I guess, like, they have a little bit of, like, advantage of being from the 2000s, maybe. But aside from that, like, yeah, I'm waiting for the Z06 to actually go down to Ultra. That'd be a great one to get. The Super Stock is fantastic. That is highly versatile. 98 MRA, I believe, a ridiculously low 0 to 60, and the only thing, you know, weighing it down is that low top speed, but it's a fantastic quarter mile, Tokyo drag, ocean drag, and half-mile car, so it's fantastic. Moving on to the off-road tire cars, nice to see some off-road representation here, actually. The Moab is pretty decent. I'm gonna give that versatile, mainly because it's like the only Korean off-road epic, I think. Might be missing like maybe 1 or 2 cars. The Ranger Trimmer and the Raptor, however, these two requires a special tag challenge. I honestly don't rate the Raptor anymore. They used to be so damn good, but like the off-road meta just gets more and more saturated with every single car update that we get. So yeah, it requires a special tag challenge. Next up is the Evo. Yeah, the Evo is, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with the Evo. I don't really race against it. I don't see a lot of players owning it, maxing it, using it. And the reason why I say that I don't have a lot of experience with it is because I'm trying to compare this to the Evo 4 that used to be an ultra rare. I think the Evo 4 is like 4984 4985, something like that. So if this can beat the Evo 4, that kind of automatically makes it a slightly better car, but I just cannot remember the stats on that Evo 4. Moving on to the Epics now, we've got, well, not the Epics, but the Porsches. We've got a lot of Porsches in Trading Paint. We've got 4 Boxsters, and none of them are good. This is garbage. This is garbage. Honestly, if I'm bringing these two to garbage tier, I need to bring the Z06 to garbage tier as well. But it is 2000s. It is 2000s, right? Like the pool of cars for 2000s epics is not as big as the pool of cars in 2010 epics, so it has a slightly smaller competition pool. I'm not sure if that is enough to even bump it up a rank, to be honest. Yeah, I'll think about the Z06. I might bump it down. Also not the Corvette, but the Porsche 718 Boxster GTS is slightly better. Actually, it's heapingly better. Heaps better. I'm gonna move it up to require some criteria, actually. Then with the Boxster S, yeah, this thing is a little bit of a disappointment. I remember owning that car back when it was a mid-tier epic. It was like 74 or something like that. I think what made it stand out was the 0 to 60 at the time when I got it was pretty good. But the handling was also terrible. Like 85, that's the thing, right? The Corvettes, they handle well. The Boxsters, not really. 85. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it down there, bro. They only made it the only option. Because honestly, if you had to use a Boxster, you'd be using the GTS 4.0. The Macan 2.0 is fantastic. As far as all-surface tire goes, like that's like one of the best all-surface tire epics and below in the game. The Macan as diesel, not as good. I would say it requires some criteria because the handling is still pretty commendable. 87 if you can max it out. The only issue is you'd only want to be using the best of the best, which is the Macan 2.0. So I'm gonna bring it 2 ranks below it. The Volvo C40 Recharge Twin. This is a pretty interesting one to actually judge because this was like the best car for like ocean beach slalom on that one ceramic event where you could only use RQ70s and below. You remember that? It was like RQ70s 4-wheel drive, which was the event. Here's the thing, man. If Hutch wants to do more of those kind of events that are super restrictive to RQ, which honestly, I don't mind. I think it's a pretty good idea. Then this car will be pretty good because that will tell me, oh, in the future, this car might be useful again. It's actually good for something. It's good for that, you know, RQ70 niche, you know, that Hutch might like to do from time and time again. We've only seen it once, though. That's the issue. We've only seen it once. And maybe it's only good in Ocean Beach Slalom. Maybe it's not good in anything else. 0 to 60 is very low, though. I'm going to put it and require some criteria for now. But I might bump it down in the future if we don't see those, like, you know, restrictive RQ events again. Volvo XC60 T6 Recharge comes up next, and that's just garbage. Okay, moving on to legendaries. I'm gonna be completely real with you, dude. The AC Cobra is garbage. The only thing about it is like, yeah, literally, only to make it the only option. I think the only time the AC has been an option has been in like AC Tri-Series events where you have to use an AC. But even then, that's like the worst AC to use. Most people would probably go for that gray and black AC, which is like RQ81. So yeah, that has to be the only option for it to be useful because at 1 star, that thing is gonna bring you no value at all. And it's honestly the same thing for a lot of these aerials. The RQ80 is definitely garbage tier, and like the higher rated aerials, they're a little bit better. I think as long as they have a special tag challenge, they might have a time to shine. Maybe the supercharge, you know, the fact that it's also really light might require some. Nah, I'm being too nice. I'm being way too nice. The Audi R6 Avant Performance again requires a special tag challenge. Honestly, borderline garbage. Then with the G80 BMW Competition M X-Drive Coupe, I'm gonna put that in versatile. Yeah, I'll put that in versatile because of its MRA top speed, and that's about it. Honestly, I might bring that down as well. I'm not too sure about that one. The M8 Competition Coupe. Now, this is a super useful car in like a recent Tri-Series we had this year. I cannot remember what the requirements were, but that was actually really good for something. So, handles better than the G80 as well. I'm gonna say versatile. I don't think it's like highly versatile, but like in terms of like German 4-wheel drive cars, we're looking at the upper echelon kind of things. But like honestly, like it's good in BMW events, not the best in German events because you have all those 911 turbos. But yeah, it's still not bad. It's versatile. But talking about 911 turbos, they did not add the good ones in this update. Not in this update, but in this special tag. The 911 turbo is just a pile of garbage. I love the car, but like you're not gonna use it for anything. The Porsche 911 turbo at most requires some criteria. I'm using it currently in the Trading Paint 5 event, and it's losing to like epics because the handling is kind of terrible. You gotta max the handling on the 911 turbo for it to give you some kind of value. Which honestly, if this is not gonna bring me a lot of value, then the M8 Okay, I'm gonna keep that made out because like this Porsche suffers in Germany and it suffers among its own brand. The BMW might suffer in Germany, but it won't suffer within its own brand. So that's gonna be the difference between those two cars. The Porsche 911 Turbo 3.8 S997. Again, I'm gonna put that in requires some criteria. And last but not least is the Macan GTS. I'm gonna put that in versatile. Like it's one of the better handling all surface tire cars. You're probably better off just maxing out a Macan 2.0 than going 1-star on a Macan GTS. But if you can max out the handling of the Macan GTS, you'll get some decent value out of it. But anyway, guys, that's Trading Pain. That's Trading Pain. That's not really the best showing. That's a lot of garbage. The legendaries honestly is more miss than hit. Like the BMWs are alright. The Porsches are borderline. Look, I love Porsches, so I wouldn't be mad even getting this like, you know, trash rated, you know, 996. But like if you don't like Porsches or you're just kind of indifferent and you don't know if you should open the pack or not, I would definitely recommend against it, especially now right before an update. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys found this video helpful and useful. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac, hold tight.